Hey everybody, welcome back. Well, in this video, we're going to go to Costa Rica and we're going to do wildlife photography. So a lot of people know that Costa Rica is a great wildlife destination for photographers, but there's also a lot of things that people don't tell you about when you're getting ready for a trip for Costa Rica. So I'm going to cover all of that stuff. I'm going to cover what lenses to bring. Yeah, we're going to bring our big wildlife lens. We're also going to bring a macro lens and what other equipment you might or might not need. So let's go to Costa Rica, let's have some fun with wildlife photography, and let's get right into this video. All right, the first thing I want to cover is what lens to bring when you go to Costa Rica. So a lot of people think that the birds and the animals are going to be far away and you need a 600 f4 or something like that. But I'm here to tell you that actually a zoom lens is the best thing to have. I bring my 200 to 600 Sony, something like a 100 to 500 Canon, or a 150 to 600 Sigma or Tamron would also work, but you want to have some ability to zoom in and out because you'll be photographing both small birds like hummingbirds, and you'll also be photographing large animals like a crocodile or a howler monkey or something that's fairly large in the frame. And sometimes those animals are really close and you want to be able to zoom in or zoom out depending on what the situation is calling for. And so I find the best lens to have is a zoom wildlife lens. And the next thing you're going to need, equipment-wise, is a macro lens. You're going to find that in a lot of places they have excellent macro photography like poison dart frogs and tree frogs, lizards. Sometimes some places have a lot of insects and flowers and things like that that you're going to want to have a macro lens for so you can focus close on those small little critters and get nice pictures of those as well. The next piece of advice I can offer is that you need a flash, but you don't need it all the time attached to your camera. Usually the lighting is fairly good and you can just raise your ISO if it isn't so good, and you don't need that flash attached to the camera all the time, but you do want to have a flash for when it comes time to do hummingbirds, stop action photography of those types of situations. You do want to have at least one flash that attaches to the hot shoe of your camera. Okay, let's talk about tripod use or handheld photography in Costa Rica. So I probably handhold my gear 75% of the time, and so be prepared to also have a stabilized lens or a stabilized camera body that can help you when you're hand holding, but also have a tripod for those times when you're set up at a feeding situation and you're waiting for the birds to come. Okay, and talking about feeding of the birds and the wildlife, yes, that happens a lot in Costa Rica. The animals are brought to you in set-up situations. The birds are attracted by usually natural foods such as bananas or maybe a mango or a melon or something. So walking in the jungle and trying to get birds and animals that way, yes, once in a while you'll do that, but most of it is a little bit easier than that because the animals and the birds are attracted at certain lodges to a food source, and then you can photograph as they come in. Okay, let's talk about going with local guides. This is your ticket to getting much better photography of the wildlife. On my trips, I hire local guides almost everywhere we go, and they either take you to the wildlife that they know happens to sit up in a certain tree at certain times, or they call the animals in sometimes. You go off on your own. Rarely are you going to find anything that's really out of this world, whereas if you go with a local who knows where to take you, things are going to turn out much better. All right, I know we're talking about wildlife photography, but the scenery in Costa Rica is gorgeous as well. So bring a wide-angle lens, something like a 24 to 70, something that you can shoot a waterfall if you come across one, or a beach scene or a mountain scene. Just have it in your bag just in case you want to photograph that besides all of the wildlife that you're going to see. Let's talk about the lodges that you're going to find in Costa Rica. They range everywhere from rustic to luxurious. But what's most important is that they're located in a spot that has some photography either right from the grounds of the lodge or in a nearby location where you can easily get pictures of the birds or the animals that you're after. You're going to find the food is excellent as well. There's a huge variety of local foods, fresh vegetables and fruits, and they can cater to any sort of dietary restrictions, and you're going to have no problem enjoying your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which you usually will take at your lodge. Okay, another thing that people don't ever talk about, and I hardly ever hear anyone mention, is the fact that it's going to rain while you're in Costa Rica. Yes, they have a dry season and a wet season, but it can rain any day in Costa Rica depending on where you are, and sometimes, in some places, it rains every day. But I think you should also embrace the rain, and I think it makes the animal life more active. The birds and the animals want to come out in the rain, and it just gives you those unique images that you can't get anywhere else unless it's pouring rain. So, as a photographer, you want to stay dry. Well, the lodges that are set up for photographers, they know that. And so a lot of places, they have their feeding station or their setups out in the rain, but then where the photographer stands, it's under some sort of covering. So you can stay dry and still get those compelling images of animals in the rain. Okay, so Costa Rica has all kinds of wildlife, but the majority of things that you're going to see wildlife-wise is going to be birds. I mean, this place has over 900 species of birds found in Costa Rica, and the bird life is just incredible. It's excellent. You just never know what kind of bird's going to come in, and depending on what habitat you're in or what area of Costa Rica, the species can be completely different. Of course, you've got high mountain species, then you've got coastal species, and each area that you go to will have a variety of species that you can photograph and get great pictures of. So with all those colorful birds in Costa Rica, it's kind of a wonder that they chose as their national bird the clay-colored thrush. And they did that for two reasons. One, it's a very common bird and can be seen almost everywhere throughout the country. And the other reason is that its song is a harbinger of the spring rains. And so when farmers heard that song, they would know it's time to plant because the spring rains were coming soon. Last thing I want to mention about Costa Rica is their motto that's printed here is pronounced Pura Vida, and it just means pure life. It's a great way to look at things as you're visiting Costa Rica. Pura Vida. So hopefully you can see that Costa Rica is an awesome place to be a wildlife photographer. The diversity of the animals and birds that you can see there is just unparalleled. And I'm excited to be taking a group there again next year. Hopefully you can join us. And if not, we'll see you on the next video. I do appreciate you watching. Thanks, and see you soon.